So why are you blitzing him?
I don't understand it. Especially with the shooting they surround him with too. It doesn't make sense.
Like I get the Brunson thing has been since Randall's out.
Yeah.
The uptick in blitzes has
for
gone
sure.
way up,
they
right?
They don't have that.
I get that.
Yeah, for sure.
I get that.
I get that as well. You know, you have to. He's a one-head monster right now with the Knicks, and they blitzing him and making other guys beat him. I saw Golden State do it a lot last night as well before our game. But yeah, it doesn't, because he's going to make every read, and when Tim Hardaway is hitting 6 or 7 threes, you're done.
Yeah.
Kyrie's going to do what Kyrie does.
Yeah.
Luka's going to do what he does. But when you get Tim Hardaway hitting 6 or 7 threes, and in our game earlier this year, we blitzed Luka and Dante Exum hit 5.
Oh, that's right.
6 threes. Yeah, that.
I guess what's interesting to me with great players, because everybody always talks about mixing it up. You got to mix up the coverage and pick and roll. You got to mix up how you double, when you double, all that stuff, right? So, for example, just so we're clear on this, when you double, what I mean is the guy's in the mid post in isolation against the mismatch.
Is it on the dribble?
Is it on the dribble? Is it on the catch?
Yeah, exactly.
How you double? Is it, as you said, tilt? Is it coming from the baseline or is it coming from the nail?
Yep.
Right? You have to talk about all those things. I just think with spacing and with shooting, there's just no good answer. So if people want explanations about why we're having all these scoring outputs, it's because there's not a good fucking answer.
No.
Atlanta blitzes the most in the NBA. They decided not to blitz Luka Doncic because they were worried about the consequences. And he had 73.
And he has 73.
Right? There's just not good answers for the best players right now.
No. And it goes back to the three-point shooting, as you said. Teams are afraid of teams hitting 6 or 7 or 8 threes in a game right now. So this is where all the switching occurs now. Everyone's saying, okay, let's get to the switches. At least we will keep everybody home. But then you realize when you switch a non-favorable defender on a great player, if that great player knows going to make the reads, they're going to get threes anyways because they're going to drive, there's going to be a help, and then there's going to be a numbers game. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. So it has to come to a point, it's like, what are we willing to give up? Not what are we willing to stop. You can't stop great guys. You can't stop great players. You just hope they miss. But what are we willing to give up? And then you have to just tip your hat. Like these scoring outputs is insane. I wish I was back in like 2012 right now.
With the young legs, with the young tires.
With young tires.
Yeah. The tires with only 11,000 miles on them. The switching thing is interesting too to me because there's certain teams that can put switch-heavy lineups out there, right?
Yeah.
You need the personnel
to be
able to switch,
you
right?
do.
And you need to be able to trust certain guys. So like Ty Lue clearly trusts his bigs to be a switch. To the point, like going back to Luka, I played on that team in 21 that lost in Game 7 against the LA Clippers.
Yeah.
And he trusted Zubats to switch onto Luka that entire series, despite the fact that Luka was killing him.
Right.
Because he didn't want to get in rotation, right? So what's interesting to me, though, about the switching against switchable lineups, like so you have 5 guys that are capable, is how creative teams have gotten with defeating the switches. So it's 2 of the hardest actions to guard, to me right now, are ghost screens with a great shooter. And running into a pick and roll. It's not a traditional slip.
Right.
You run into a pick and roll, you touch the guy's back, and then you get behind the defense.
Behind the defense,
And if you have a guy like Kristaps Porzingis or Jason Tatum that is doing that, you can't guard that. So you could be like, oh yeah, we're going to switch. Teams have now figured out ways to exploit switching.
I know Washington is in the shitter, but even last night in our matchup last night, we got to a switching lineup, but Kuz was hip tapping AR, and we were calling switch, and AR two times couldn't get back to Kuz, and he was able to get into the lane. He missed one, made one, but exactly what you're just saying. Like, teams are figuring out ways to, when the switches happen, how can I exploit a switch?
That's interesting. You brought up the hip tap too. So like on the ghost screen, you called it a bluff screen. The ghost screen, Like you guys used to, when I was in New Orleans, KCP, I'd guard him. He would do this all the time. So let's say we are in a switch defensively. We're in a switch. If the guy slips on a ghost screen, my job is to go with him.
Yeah, call square.
Right?
Square.
Right.
Slip.
But offensive players, as they're running up into the screen, they tap the guy on the hip. So you're supposed to switch on contact. When you feel the contact, you think it's a switch.
Yeah,
now the ball
and
handler
I'll
just goes.
open up and
I'm
gone.
doing my job because he slipped, so I'm going with him. That's why it's hard.
That's why it's hard.
In real time, it's like, yeah, we can have all these rules, but then you gotta do it in real
That's why
time.
the NBA is the best league in the world. That's why it's hard for me to watch my son play college basketball.
You want to go there?
I loved you in college basketball. I fucking hated Duke, but I love watching you. I love Duke now because K is my guy now, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Obviously.
But it is hard watching a 40-minute college basketball game. It's hard. I get more anxiety and I sweat more watching college basketball, especially my son now, than I've ever done in my life.
I still watch legitimate teams, ranked teams. They will run a play, and their best player will get the ball on the wing, and they will have a non-threat big man posting up on the same side, and the guard or the wing will drive into the occupied post. And I'm like, guys, it's 2024. We can all watch YouTube. There's a wealth of information out there